This episode of RSR is brought to you by Isotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Atom Audio, Spectra 1964, Grace Design, and Picker. These are tools that I use every day in my studio, from the Spectra 1964 STX 600 and Native Instruments Complete 15 to Isotope Ozone and RX, Atom Audio monitoring and headphones, and the central hub for my studio, the Grace Design M701 audio interface. Check out my studio profile on the Picker app on iPhone or Android and follow the sponsor links in the show notes. Grab my free mixing course at mixmasterbundle.com, and remember to like this video and subscribe on YouTube because it's a great way to help support this show. Now, get ready to rock.
People say this about me, which is really interesting, and I appreciate it, and at the same time I'm like, guys, and they go, Jimmy doesn't like anything. So when Jimmy likes it, you know we got something.
Nice.
And I'm like, I don't like the part about I don't like anything. It's just that, like, I've heard so much, look, my background came from, I grew up in Philadelphia, in the church with gospel people singing their asses off. And then I come and I moved to a place like Great Neck, Long Island, which is the exact opposite. But I've heard the real shit. And when I was a baby, when I was a kid in the hood, I would hear Ray Charles, I would hear James Brown, I'd hear all the, Patti LaBelle. I'd hear that quality of whatever. And then now here I am at suddenly rock and roll's end, and I'm listening, and I'm like, this ain't shit.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Rock stars, if you want your mixes and masters to translate everywhere, Isotope Ozone 12 gives you the tools to finish with confidence. The new bass control helps you see and balance your low end and punch. Unlimiter brings back life to overcompressed tracks, and Stem EQ lets you rebalance vocals, drums, or bass using only the stereo mix file. And when it's time to get loud, Ozone's new IRC Maximizer gives powerful, clean masters without distortion. Go to isotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy, Rockstars. It's your host, Lid Shaw, and welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Jimmy Douglass, known throughout the industry as the Senator. Jimmy is a legendary American recording engineer and producer whose career spans more than 4 decades. He began at Atlantic Records in the late 1970s under some of the greatest industry icons, quickly becoming known for his sharp ear, versatility, and innovative approach to record making. Jimmy engineered and mixed classic records for artists such as Aretha Franklin, Foreigner, and Hall & Oates before becoming a key creative force in modern R&B and hip-hop. His long-running collaboration with Timbaland, producing groundbreaking work for Missy Elliott, Genuine, and Justin Timberlake, securing Jimmy's status as one of music's most influential sonic architects. He is also a 5-time Grammy winner. Jimmy is also a member of META-Alliance alongside Chuck Ainlay, Frank Filippetti, George Massenburg, Elliot Shiner, Sylvia Massey, and Nico Bolas. Please welcome Jimmy Douglass to Recording Studio Rockstars. Jimmy, are you ready to rock, my friend?
Always ready to rock. Are you ready to roll?
Man, it's such an honor to have you here on the show. I got to meet you briefly when I was in New York for the AAS conference, but I'm excited to just really have a conversation with you.
And was I kind?
You were very nice. Yeah. I think I asked probably the question that people have asked you before. It's like, oh, really? Are you in recording? What do you do?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, where do I begin? So, I'm sure you get that question. Can you give us a little bit of a brief story arc in your own words about like your interest in music and your path through these different, decades of making records?
So I mean, I could, and it just starts as a teenager, and it was the early 70s, actually, not the late 70s. It was the early, even to
Right
the
on.
late end of the 60s, actually. Um, like
In New
for
York?
Aretha. In New York City, Atlantic Records. I had a job as a kid I was in school, and I ended up at Atlantic Records. Not that quickly. They didn't put me in the record company. They put me in the distributor. I got a job doing the distributor. By the way, I tell this story all the time because it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah.
We now stream. So first of all, the new people don't even know what the freak I'm talking about. But in the age of records, you had to get them into the record store somehow. And you would have, well, first you'd have to press the records up. And they're heavy as fuck. If you have a stack
Yeah.
of records, they're heavy. So you had to have.
So you're a teenager trying to lift these heavy boxes too.
Well, no, it wasn't even lifting the heavy boxes. It was more like, first of all, I'd like to talk about something that really wasn't experienced as a kid. They had this thing called Columbia House, whatever it was called.
Yeah,
and all they were doing
record.
was, right. So this is my entry to debt, because for $1, $1, they said you would get these records and then you have to keep paying, but they kept sending the records, and I'm a kid, I'm not paying you. So that was the beginning of my understanding, like, what, I don't have to pay you. But that's how I started my collection. And then when I worked at Atlantic, they would give us 6 free records a month as employees. So that's how my record collection was growing over the years.
And so do you still have these records today?
Dude, I have so many records, I can't get rid of them. And every time I start to get rid of them, people go, don't, they'll be great for doing sampling and stuff. And I'm like, I'm done already. Like, no, man, don't do it. So I have storages of all these records and vinyl, and it's like, ugh.
How do you even store vinyl today? I mean, like, if you've got it for a long time and you really don't want it to just, bend or warp or any of that stuff.
You can't stop that. You just have to try to pile them up the way you do. I mean, I did the best job I could. I'm in Miami now, by the way. I live in Miami. So I had to move all that stuff from New York to Miami, and I really didn't want to, but I did. And, and now I'm trying to put together my system again. I have an old Macintosh amp with
Sweet.
What a Techniques turntable. I'm like, I'm going to put that up so I can listen to vinyl. I don't want to listen to vinyl. I'm sorry. I love it. I grew up on it. That's my lineage, but my ears have gotten used to the new sound of digital, and it's gotten used to the sound of squashed MP3s. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but it's almost like when I listen to vocalists and stuff, and I listen to the radio a lot, especially in hip hop and pop. Well, the vocalists all have auto-tune on them. It gives a certain sound to the delivery. It's not about the tuning. It's about what humans are now hearing and accepting. And I, as the purist that I once was, I now understand that sound to be how it's to be delivered. You could think of it like, there was sound on vinyl, there was sound on cassettes, there was sound on 8-tracks. They all had different sounds to them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There was on the CD, they have a certain sheen on. I'll just say they all have a certain coating on them. And so I'm just making that analogy. I don't know why. Because my ears have gotten tuned into modern music, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were in New York. You're in Miami now. New York is well known to be a great city of the arts, and Miami really is too. I mean, you guys have those incredible murals down there. Did you find yourself going to art museums at all while you were up there? Were you sort of immersed in all of it, the music and the art?
You talking about in New York?
Yeah.
I didn't have time dude, I was in the studio every day.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm very serious. My plight was very interesting. I was getting to the record distributor because I wanted to be in the record company, and I got the job there. But what I did get to learn, this was the age of, like, I remember specifically Buffalo Springfield. They didn't break yet, but they wanted, and I was in the Atlantic distribution for the whole East Coast. And I'd go to this job, and you'd take a shopping cart, and they go 20 of this, 10 of this, 15 of this. And whether the records are selling or not, I could tell every day by going, hey, every day I put 15 of these in a cart. This must be hot. You feel me? I was able to wasn't about hype. It was very simply every day I do 15 to 25 of these. This record must be selling. And then there'd be a record you do one every couple of days, maybe, and you go, this record ain't doing shit.
Wow.
So that was my lesson on the ground about when people talk. Oh my God, it's blowing up. Based off of who, man? People, people are just promoting shit, and they listen to whatever you convince them of. Anyway, that was my lesson there. It was a great lesson. I got to hear all kinds of music that I wouldn't have heard. I got to hear the Atlantic catalog that didn't sell. Then they did bring me over to the studio itself, and my job was, I kind of explain. I love this. I love explaining this because it's nothing like this now. So what happened was like, let's pick an Aretha record. Let's say, I don't know, whatever the big record you had. I didn't do that. I didn't do the big Respect. Okay, let's just take Respect. So what happens is you have the tape, you make the tape, and then you got to master it so that you can make it into a consumable thing, which is a disc, right? All right. When they master it, the guy in the mastering puts a little EQ or whatever the fuck he does, right? And that's the representation of the sound on the radio that's making the hit, right? But then they go, hey, France and England goes, I want some of that action over here. Yeah. And then Italy says, I want some of that action. Well, you're not going to put, thousands and thousands and thousands of discs on a boat or an airplane. It's cost not effective. So what they would do is every record they would put out, they'd make tape copies of the mastering. So everything the master guy would do would be on a tape copy. And they'd go, okay, France, England, Italy, Germany, here, just copy this and put it on your lathe. Like,
right, because they're going to press it locally.
That's exactly right.
It's like a Coca-Cola plant, like filling bottles, filling up sodas locally.
Yeah, right. So, but for me as a musician, as a kid, I'm like, this is fascinating. And so that's what my job when I went to Atlantic at first was. I was the tape copier. So once again, every record that they put out, and there was a lot of records that, every record they put out, I'd get to hear. So I would go after school, I'd go in, set up the tape machines, and I would make 7 or 8 copies of everything that they had. And one of the great things that I found on that in there was this guy. I was just, because, you don't know what these things are. They just have numbers on a little cardboard box where the tape is. And one of them I put on, and I was just there doing whatever. I was supposed to be doing homework. And I put it on, and I go, and I hear, they call me, boom, Dr. John, known as a nitrate. And I'm going, what the fuck is this? Dude, I was like, what the fuck? And that was an album that I was doing, copying. That I would have probably never heard before that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of grew into it. And it was very special. And I am in the record company. The record company had a studio in the back, but the record company was on 1841 Broadway. And we had the corner of Broadway and 60th Street. And in the back was the studio. And what I would do instead when I come for the work, I'd go in the back because, you put the tape on and you have nothing to do for the next 20 minutes while the tape copies. So the concept was Jerry Wexler's wife, who owned the company, her thing was like, Jerry, give him a job. He can do his homework. He can start making money to go to school, college.
Nice.
So that was the concept. I should do my homework while I'm doing tape copy. What do you think I was doing? I go through the back door and there's Dusty Springfield recording Breakfast in Bed with Tom Dowd and Arif Mardin and all these people running around. And I'm like, and my thing was like, oh, get back and put the next tape on. And that's what I was doing. And that's what I was doing, running down the hall. And
that's a trip, man. That's like my teen job was a movie projectionist. So same thing. It's like starting the reel and then like run into different parts of the theater to check out the next, the other film. And
right.
Although I was down at the candy counter flirting with the girls a lot too.
Well, that's really that's what I'm saying. Mine was watching Tom Dowd do his thing. And and the other part of that story is like with Arif and Tom Dowd, the first album I ever saw mixed in my life was Dusty Springfield and Dusty in Memphis.
Wow,
Breakfast in Bed. Yeah, and I saw this. I saw Cissy Houston doing the backgrounds for that record. This was all brand new to me.
Yeah.
And I was just a kid in the background going, is the next tape ready to put on? And that's what I was doing. And so
and so those guys would just like really welcome you in. How was like Tom Dowd? Would he sort of show you what was going on?
No. Here's what Tom Dowd would do. He'd be left there at night. He'd be left there at night doing whatever. And I would just keep coming in the back. And one thing I did know, Don't let him know you're there. Like the modern people come in studios and they jump in the middle and they stand up and it's like they disrupt the process. This was more like, I don't want him to throw me out. So like as if you snuck in a movie theater. It's I quietly would stand in the back and just watch him and watch whatever's going on and say nothing. I would watch him. And what I would do is I watch him use the little board they had built. Then I come in before school and they said, hey, we got some tapes in the library. We were in the 8-track days. They were like, you can mess with those, the demos, but don't mess with the real stuff. So I'd come in the morning, I'd take the demo things and I put them up and I try to make sound happen. And that's what I was doing. And I would watch Tom with the little patch bay things and I'd watch him. And after a while, I got to see his habits. And so, one night he's doing something and I knew what his next move was going to be. And I just showed up and was like, here. And he looked at me like, how the fuck do you know that? You know what I'm saying? And then teaching myself the board, what I wanted to do was teach myself to the point where I couldn't do certain things because the guys in the shop were booby trapping me. They didn't like the fact I was stepping above my grade. Right. And so they would, like when I thought I got it, they would go and stick a patch and they would booby trap me. So I spend my morning going, it worked yesterday. Why doesn't it work now? They made one of the best troubleshooters in the world. They don't realize that. But that's my whole thing with Tom Dowd was I wanted to wait until I had the question that made sense. I didn't want the dumb question. Like, how do you turn it on? And I did. I waited till I asked him, and he just looked at me like, how do you know this stuff? And that was our relationship, basically. And the other part about the Tom Dowd's thing was I grew with him and Arif Mardin and Jerry Wexler making these records. I thought everybody was as good as they were. I didn't have a gauge to know any different. And as I grew and I got whatever, I was like, you were with the fucking giants, dude. These were not just some slacky guys making records.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Do you even remember what your first question to Tom was?
I don't remember that. I don't. Yeah. But he was impressed.
Well, so I mean, recording has changed a lot since then too. I mean, how would you even describe what would you say to somebody who's like, yeah, was it the same then as it is today, or not?
I would say to them something eclectic, i.e., it's the same as today as it was then in terms of you are the keeper of the archives, and that is your job. The tools you might use to make that happen have changed enormously. There's no conversation. We're talking dogs and monsters. I don't know what we're talking, but between the console, the tape, having to slow down to make things happen because that's part of the process. You could only go so fast. And my example is that when the hip hop kids, when they want to do their hip hop, they have everything's in the phone. They're like, all the lyrics are there. And I'm like, dude, just write the shit down. It's easier. We can all see it and we can all, but no, do it like this. And they go, oh, what, stop it. Come on, man. Quick. Come on. I'm like, come on, man. What's your fucking hurry? And when we had the tape, you had to rewind to punch in again. Yeah. So it made everybody have to stop for a second and think about what they were doing. Now they just do. I'll think about it later. And that's why not why, but that's, in my opinion, that's why the quality of the artist's quality, I find a little more mediocre because nobody's really paying attention to their craft. It's almost like when you make a director directs a movie and they go, oh, we're going to do this scene again because, so everybody focus on this. Isn't that how they do it? Right. And that's how it used to be with a record. While the thing was rewinding, like, we're going to do that take again. We're going to try to sing that again and let's try to do this with it. And now they just go, do it again. Do it again. And I'm like sitting there going, I don't want to do it again. You're just sitting there jerking your fucking self off. And I got to push the buttons. You can push your own goddamn buttons. Anyway, I don't mean to be that guy.
No, it's all right. I know that feeling. But feeling like a button pusher in the studio gets old as after you've done it for a while. At the beginning.
Well, not only that. I mean, I'm a producer. I've produced records that I can make this happen easier for you. But that's not no. And now it's in the hands of everybody. Everybody has everything they need at home. The recording process has no reverie to it. Used to be you walk in, you're like, da-da-da, oh my God, it's the studio. Oh my God. And that whole feeling, all of it, it's all
It'd be
related.
like stepping onto a famous stage as an actor or performer.
Exactly. Now you sit at home with your little whatever, and you're doing the performance to send in. And you can sit here all day and just keep doing whatever you want to do to it. And, and you're the director.
So how do we bring that back? How do we, because I mean, that is a benefit to the arts, to music. What do you think are some ways that you find is possible to bring that back?
I don't think you bring it back. I think you go with the flow.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. Like, one of the things, there's a group of guys that I work with, guys and gals. Sylvia Massey would be the gal.
Yeah.
And the Met-Alliance. And one of the things I do for them, because we all kind of do real recording. I call it real recording. I haven't really been doing real recording for a while. I've been doing the digital recording because that's where my action and my line has been. But I try to explain to them that basically the tools are different now. And like you said, how do you bring it back? I'm like, the new kids coming up don't want to bring it back. They never had it before. They don't care. And then they go, well, if they heard real sound, I'm like, this is real sound to them. It's like, it'd be like when we were doing what we're doing and somebody said, hey, you need to hear wire recordings. Why? you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
totally. I mean, it's like we're living in the kids' world now.
We're always living in the kids' world.
Yeah.
We're always living in the kids' world. They're the ones that believe in the fairy dust. They're the ones that support artists. They're the ones that will go on the road and follow you to anywhere because they believe in whatever. As you get older, life gets in the way. You get a family. You get a job. You can't support the people anymore. You start to realize that didn't mean shit because you have other things. And the manipulators, the promoters and all that stuff, they promote to where, and you're not going to spend your money. You're not going to spend the same money. You'll spend money for ticket for, an artist or two here and there, of course, that you really love. Yeah. But you're not going like the insane little kids and they just go, they're the ones that spend the money because they ain't got shit to do, first off. That's number one.
Well, so now, so Jimmy, I appreciate you bringing this stuff up too. And I love talking about this now. You mentioned, you brought up Met-Alliance. And how you pronounce it, Met-Alliance? It's sort of like there's one A in the middle, right? Sort of like it's like a mashup. So tell us a little bit about tell us a little more about Met-Alliance. It's an amazing group of people that you have together there, and then you guys have a pretty amazing event coming up too, right?
We do. We have an amazing event, and it's really the way that I got inducted into the Met-Alliance once again. Originally there was, I believe Al Schmidt, when you talk about, the Giants, and there was Phil Ramone and
was
Eddie
Cherney, was that right?
Yeah, Ed Cherney, right. So they're all not here anymore, but they kind of were the original nucleus. And I think what they were doing, from what I understand, was they're trying to find ways to better and keep some of the equipment manufacturers in check. Like you want, let us see your stuff and we'll put the quality stamp on it for you because we do know quality. But as you just mentioned, the concept of quality is changing. I mean, not quality itself. Quality still is quality, but I meant the things that people are looking for are changing.
Yeah. But there's that wonderful combination of generations too that come together, and it's like you have the bravery of the youth and you have the wisdom of our elders too. And so like that combination is what I think really gives us superpowers as the human race, as creators and everything like that. So I think it's a great thing.
Oh, and so one of the things that we do is we get together and we it kind of happened from just like, what would you call it? Coffee shop style, where like you get together and talk shop.
Yeah.
And we just trade thoughts and ideas and like, hey, guess what happened on the way to the camp, and this clown, so we were doing a lot of that. and we decided to take the show on the road. And
that's great.
And it turns out it's really, really good. We had one up in Ridgefield, Connecticut, had a packed house. Everybody had a good time. We tell stories. I tell stories, like, for instance, about me and Jimmy Page.
Amazing. We got to hear a little
Michael
bit of that
Bolton's,
too,
stories like that. Just little tidbits, behind the scenes kind of thing that could make a difference or not make a difference, but it's fun. And we just that's how we organize this. And now, so we're going to have a run in New York City off Broadway at the Sheen Theater in February. And, the stories are endless. We can keep going for days. And that's kind of where that's coming from, actually.
Yeah. It's such a great collection of people and producers and perspectives too. I mean, you already shared with us, coming up in Atlantic Studios, and then working with artists, throughout the hip hop and R&B world as well. And then you've got, Chuck, of course, comes from the Nashville scene, and, all these artists he's working with. And Sylvia, Sylvia is just, she's wild too. I haven't had her on the show yet, but I look forward to it. But an appreciation I have for Sylvia is just like, she's a great artist. Her sense of artwork is fantastic. I've got a poster, her NAMM poster that she drew all the members of NAMM, like a Where's Waldo poster. And it's just up on the studio wall, really, really brilliant stuff. Cause I love that kind of, urban comic art world, that she appreciates as well. So what an amazing thing. So you guys it's all February in 2026. So it's coming up soon, Rockstars. If you're watching this now or listening, I would highly suggest you find out about this, because you guys are there for the full month.
Yeah.
Amazing.
In and out.
That's very cool. Jimmy, you mentioned Jimmy Page, two Jimmys. Can you share, some kind of memory of working with Jimmy?
Well, here? No, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to move it down the line and say that was very successful. And that's in some of our stories. And that's one of the stories that I do tell. But the result of that was Peter Grant, his manager, was there with it. And like I said, Atlantic was just an open, there's the office and there's the studio. People just came and went. It wasn't any whatever. So Peter Grant was a part of that transaction on the second Zeppelin album. So he knew me. And by the way, all this stuff I only realized when I got older. When I was just younger, I thought it was totally happenstance. And now I get it. Because then suddenly there was a group in that would keep their gear in the A studio. And Ahmed had signed them from England, but Peter Grant was their manager. And that's probably why he signed them. See how I learned. Duh. Anyway. And then so I'm in the hallway doing nothing one day, and Ahmed comes running through, and there's Peter Grant again. I remember him because he's a big man. And I remember when I was working with Jimmy, he was, and he was like, hey. And then Ahmed says, what are you doing? He goes, come here. I need you to mix this record for me real quick. And I went into this little crappy third mix room we had. I put it on, and it was actually the guys who had their gear in the studio. It was Genesis, but they hadn't hadn't popped yet. And the record was Follow You, Follow Me. And I sat there, and I don't know if you know that record at all. That's the record that broke them.
Yeah.
And I sat there, and I mixed it real quickly, and I gave it back to them, and they went off on their business, and boom, the rest is history. My name's not on that record because it wasn't like that then.
Yeah.
It was more like, what are you doing? Mix this. And, and they didn't expect it, whatever, and it blew up, and that, and then Jerry Greenberg, the next president, I'm going, Jerry, you got to find out where to get my name on. Yeah, I will. But Jerry just handed me Foreigner instead. You see what I'm saying? That's amazing. The kind of life I got to live.
Yeah. So talk about working with Foreigner, because you were talking about earlier, that thoughtful process of recording rather than quick, and not really figuring out what we're going to do. But when I listen to Foreigner, it's like every element of that is it's just amazing, because it's like there's a quality to it that can make you think digital because it's so tight and it's so well packaged.
Right.
Management-wise and performance-wise. Yet we have to remember, no. That was, you sing it until you nail that part, and that's printed on tape.
That's right.
You know,
And we
that's
talk
a
about
huge
it
deal.
while you're doing it. Well, like we talk about why you're singing it again. Like we all talk about why you're singing it again. Let me do it again because. Okay, so we're all in on the play. It's like I said, it's like making a movie. We're all in on the action. When you just stand there by yourself and just keep doing it over and over, it's like, why? I have ideas what you could have done better. I don't hear any of it. And it's just, after a while, it's like you're just self-deprecating.
Rock stars, if you want fresh song ideas, Complete 15 from Native Instruments has the tools to kickstart your creativity. With Contact 8's Chords tool, you can generate and customize chord progressions instantly for songwriting. And the Phrases tool gives you ready-to-go melodic inspiration right at your fingertips. With 165 instruments and over 150,000 sounds, Complete 15 helps you turn blank pages into music. Pair that with a Complete Control keyboard or machine hardware for seamless integration and hands-on control. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Well, do you feel like there's a difference between seeking out with intention in the studio versus, the happy accident stuff that happens in the studio where you stumble on it?
I think there's got to be a fine line between both. I mean, so here's another example that I have. In the hip hop world, and even sometimes in rock and roll, even in earlier rock and roll, they make you turn all the lights down so I can't see shit. I can't see the guy in the booth. And what used to happen with Aretha and even Daryl Hall and so forth, when they would be singing, I would be watching them because I was acting as a human limiter when I was doing vocals. I didn't know how to use all that gear. I wasn't taught. So I didn't know how to use the gear in the wall to make it work. So I would just sit there, and when Aretha would do this, I knew the note was coming, and I would turn down the mic pre so it wouldn't overload.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to basically just job security. It wasn't like Jimmy was thinking brilliant. I was like, I'm about to lose my job. And but I needed that. I needed to be able, and Daryl Hall, the same thing. He would get, and when he would do that, I'm like, it's coming, dude. So I'm a part of the fabric. We're doing this together. You feel what I'm saying? When you turn all the lights out, I don't know what you're doing.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, because I mean, and, the other part is you're describing, Aretha's somebody. I mean, I assume she must also have moments of lack of confidence, but I think she's probably pretty confident in the studio.
She doesn't do
and
that
like
many takes.
so.
No.
Yeah, so
she
like
doesn't do that many takes.
Right. So, but to be able to perform like that, like step into the light, in other words, do you feel like there's a difference between that ability to be in a well-lit studio and just be like, I'm on stage. Everybody can see me right now. I'm cool with that.
It doesn't have to be well lit, but I'm just trying to say, but the functions of everybody, the analogy you picked of the movie, that's how I live making records. It's the same thing, you know, and there's no way you can make a movie if everybody doesn't know what the plot is and what's going to happen next. It's just not going to, you can. So that's why I'm like, we're all here. Let's use all of us.
Yeah.
I know shit you don't know. Let me see what the problem. Let's talk about. Why are you doing that again? I don't know. I thought that was pretty. The other thing was, I come from a world we had limited tracks. Okay, so when you went ahead and went over something, you goddamn better have thought about. You know what? I don't know. I think that was the note, and I think if we try to get that again, we're going to be here for another 3 hours. And many times that was the fabric of like, here's the bet. If especially the producer, if you're the engineer, you shut the fuck up after a while. But if you're the producer, it's like, listen, I'm paying money for this time. That's the other thing. People aren't paying money for the time anymore in their DAWs.
Yeah.
So they don't understand that concept that you got to pay. And limited tracks means, because I've done it many times with acts. I'd go, I don't think I can do it better. I can do better. I'm like, all right. And 6 hours later, it's like, we never got that same thing again because it's gone. And now there's like, just save it. And it's like, so what happens now when you're mixing? You're going through 5,000 vocals to get, and you're creating stuff that didn't really happen, but that's the way it's done. I'm not complaining, by the way. I'm showing the difference in how it was done and how it is done.
Yeah.
And
as a producer yourself, I mean, where do you feel like that knowledge comes from to judge that was a great take? Is it just,
that's just
is
something
it partly from the gut? Is it? Just lots of
it's all
experience.
from the gut. It's like, people say this about me, which is really interesting, and I appreciate it. And at the same time, I'm like, guys, and they go, Jimmy doesn't like anything. So when Jimmy likes it, we got something.
Nice.
And I'm like, I don't like the part about I don't like anything. It's just that, like, I've heard so much. Look, my background came from. I grew up in Philadelphia, in the church with gospel people singing their asses off. And then I come and I moved to a place like Great Neck, Long Island, which is the exact opposite. But I've heard the real shit. And when I was a baby, when I was a kid in the hood, I would hear Ray Charles, I would hear James Brown, I'd hear all the Patti LaBelle. I'd hear that quality of whatever. And then now here I am, suddenly rock and roll's in, and I'm listening, and I'm like, this ain't shit. I like it, but I've heard quality. Now when we can combine those together, like even Sid Foreigner, Lou Gramm was a freaking powerhouse. I mean, his singing was like Giovanni, an opera singer. It was just that kind of thing. But then there's a whole bunch of other rockers that really weren't crap.
When you were recording him, though, where were you guys pushing boundaries? I mean, when was it? What were things that would be hard for him to have to like work toward?
No, he would just basically be Mick Jones as the great songwriter that he is, and having Lou Gramm and the band, everything, he would let him do his thing. Because Mick Jones was on the road with this French guy, I forgot his name, for like about 15 years. So he understood patience and waiting for the quality. That's part of the formula right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually, they elevated me to the next level from where I went. I was working with the Rolling Stones and stuff, doing Love You Live and stuff, but the Stones weren't really that intense about making about the mixing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to be with Foreigner, that first record was just like, dude, we had no automation on the board, number one. So you have to imagine all the different stuff. And they had so many parts, and it was only a 24-track recording that we jammed all that in. Like you said, it sounded like it was digitally orchestrated. And then we didn't have cameras and stuff back then, but if you did, all you'd see 6 bodies on the console, everybody grabbing knobs. It was that session.
Yeah.
It was
that
awesome.
was always fun. I loved that part of it. It's like
it was a group. It was
you feel like you're on a team trying to score a goal together.
Bingo. Right. Well, now the team is like, oh, my team. I'll call my team. What is your team doing except blowing smoke up people's ass? But that's okay. I understand we have to sell. I get it. And you can't do it by yourself. But you're right. That's funny. That's when it was a team. And we were a team with the music. Yeah,
and then you get the
crazy
take, and then it's like, all right, let's go get lunch or whatever. Let's take a break. Or
actually,
maybe
with the Foreigner thing, the record, that's an interesting concept about that was I saw them make the record. I didn't record that record. I just did the mixing. And the way it worked was Ian McDonald,
mm-hmm.
who used to be with King Crimson, right?
Yeah.
So there's another story with King Crimson for me in Atlantic Studios when they came out with their Court of the Crimson King, that album.
Yeah.
It was a 6-minute piece. And once again, Ahmed he says, yes, can you make this shorter for the radio? Because they're never going to play this. And I made the edit that broke King Crimson over here.
No shit.
Once again.
Man. Wow.
Yeah. But the thing is, when I say I did it, it's not like I did it. It's like, it was just work for the day.
Right.
The boss asked me to fucking make an edit. I didn't know it was going to be all of that. That's hard to explain to people.
They didn't even have the album cover yet. You didn't even know what that looked like yet.
No, I didn't know any of it. I was just doing what the man said so I can get a paycheck. You know? Because if I knew all that was,
Well, but I mean, learning how to edit though, I mean, learning what you described, learning what sells, learning what people really like in music, that's a huge skill set. Like, so what kind of music, if you make it, might actually connect with customers one day. Learning how to do edits, learning, what things will screw up a mix once it's in there, in the tape printing and the mastering, all that stuff. That's really valuable stuff.
But that's just the job. What I'm saying is, okay, so here's a question I get a lot that I really can't explain to people. And it goes like this. The Foreigner record was different. I felt different. I felt that whole vibe. And I was going to tell you the way that I work. And I want to come back to this at the point, if you could remind me, because I'll wander. So they had recorded that album, a demo. The group was called Trigger. And they had a manager, Bud Prager, and he was very tight with Jerry Greenberg, who now is running Atlantic Records, and he convinced them to get him a deal. They recorded at Atlantic Records, that album. I watched them do it. I wasn't the engineer. They had two guys from England, John Sinclair and Gary Lyons. I don't know who they were, but that they were the guys. And when they recorded, I was watching this shit and I was going, these motherfuckers are crazy with it. They're stupid with it. Right. They took the album, they went back to England to mix it. Now remember, I heard it in Atlantic Studio. I heard it. I learned my hearing from Andy Johns, actually.
Really?
That's why. Yeah, he came. I did a project with him at Atlantic. We had a B room that sounded like fucking dog shit and for R&B and shit. But when Andy came, he showed up and I was like, who is this guy? This English guy. He was and he was doing everything so crazy.
Was he dressed like Glenn? Does he like dress up like Glenn does?
No, but he certainly drank a lot of beer. I never seen anybody drink as much beer as, but anyway, the story about him was in the B room, we were doing television. And he needed,
amazing.
I was kind of off season for work. And so the English people, they all had assistants at Atlantic Studio. We never had assistants. We just didn't have them. Like all the records I mentioned, I just did them by myself. That was how we did our work. We didn't have us. But so they came to me and they said, here's this guy from England and he's going to need help. Listen, we know that you're an engineer, Jimmy. I know, but I'm getting paid by the house anyway, right?
Right.
So and they're like, can you just help this guy out? And I was like, sure. I remember well because I had my little Strat in my hand. I was playing. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to start playing more to get out of this fucking place because nothing's happening. And he comes in and da-da-da-da. And when he started playing, I'm listening to it and it sounded like fucking bright, horrible, and aggressive on those speakers. And I was like, sounds like shit. And he goes, he says, do you have a mastering room or anything around here? We had 2 mastering rooms. I said, yeah, sure. And he goes, can I hear it in there? I said, in my head, I'm like, yeah, sure. This is going to be fun.
Right.
Go to the mastering room on the little speakers. The shit sounded fucking right on. I just went, shut the fuck up and learn. And I learned what those speakers sound like when it's right. You know the next album I did in that room? Foreigner.
No shit.
Yeah. So what?
But before we even leave that behind, so rewinding. So with Andy Johns, you were recording. We're helping work on television. The band television.
On television, yeah.
Was it like Marquee Moon era?
Yeah, the Marquee Moon album.
You were working on Marquee Moon?
Yeah, man, dude.
God, man, I love the sound of that record. Love that record. It's amazing.
Yeah, see. But like I say, all of that stuff was just because it was the way it was set up. So the thing with Foreigner was interesting. When they left, I'm like, that shit was fire. The way it sounded was fire. When they mixed it and sent it back, it sounded like everything sounded weird and dull and it was bad. Now, if I can go back to Ian McDonald, that's the reason I'm going to say Ian McDonald. Remember King Crimson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in his band with Peter Fripp or Robert Fripp, whichever, right?
Yeah.
They heard that some kid made an edit that made their record blow up. Right?
No shit.
Well, I'm just saying that's how life goes, right? It's like, that happened. Yeah, some kid made an edit in America and it took a blah. Okay. Fast forward. I happen to know Ian also because this is a good friend of mine, this girl who actually was going out with him. And she brought him to America once. And I was producing Clarence. Oh man, Clarence. I can't remember. Clarence Reed. Clarence Reed was his name, an R&B guy. And he came in and he's from England and he's stoked because you're the kid that did my record that blew me up. And then here you are doing this American R&B. You know, the English people love that shit. They love the American R&B. So, and he's in and I go, oh, you've got a sax there. I was like, can you play that thing? He goes, yeah. I said, come play a solo for us. So he got on a Clarence Reed record. So he walks away and life is good. Now that record's fucked up, I've worked with the Stones and I'm in the house and they're like, why don't you like maybe try Jimmy? And they came to me. And once again, I remember I was playing my guitar, my candy apple red Strat. I was sitting there going, nothing's fucking happening here. What's going on? And then Mick and Ian, they came and they went, hey man, would you like to try to mix the record with us? And I was like, in my head, I'm like, sure, what the fuck? I mean, I've heard your record. Your record is crazy. I don't know why it didn't. So that was how I got in.
That's amazing.
And then we did overdubs. They fixed up a lot of stuff, but that was the opening of that whole thing. Once again, it was all because I was there. Yeah.
So cool, man. Hey, rock stars, when it's time to finish your music, iZotope Ozone 12 gives you the powerful new tools to master with confidence. The new bass control helps you balance your low end, EQ, sustain, and punch so that your tracks translate everywhere. Unlimiter restores clarity and impact to overcompressed mixes, and Stem EQ lets you rebalance vocals, drums, and bass using only the stereo mix file. When it's time to push loudness, Ozone's new IRC5 Maximizer delivers clean and powerful competitive masters that stay open and musical. And with an updated mastering assistant that guides, not decides, you can move faster, make better decisions, and stay fully in control from start to finish. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. What are some, just a couple of details? And we're talking about Foreigner 77 in that story? Or which one are we talking about?
No, the first album. The one, once again, the one that broke the Cold as Ice. Yeah.
Cold as Ice, right. Okay. So what are a couple of details of like gear you used or something was just that's fun to talk about? I mean, what about reverbs and things like that? I mean, what kind of effects would you have been using?
So here's the thing. When Mick started this record, he goes, I don't want to use reverb. And I'm like, okay. First of all, we only had 2 or 3 chambers in the whole house. This is before the age of digital reverbs.
Yeah.
So we had 2 EMT plates, and we had one that we had downstairs in the basement, which they actually built, a cavern with the tile. So we didn't have a lot of reverb in the house anyway. And I would do tape reverb a lot. That's how I would do, that's what you would do that, tape reverb, slapback and all that.
Right.
But he just said, when we started the recording, he goes, I don't want to use a lot. I don't want to use a lot of reverb. If you listen to that record, it's very dry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's very
Which is
dry.
amazing because all those high notes, you would think, my gut might say, with a singer singing high notes and belting out those, you're going to wish you had a little bit of the sound of room and space around it.
Well, so I guess what he was thinking was it didn't compete with his guitars.
Right.
And the reverb would. And I didn't think all these things. Can I say what Mick would always say to me? This is how we went about that record. In terms of the mixing, they'd give me the record. I was doing a whole album, but they would record at a time, and they'd just leave me alone for the day. They were around the studio hanging out, but they would just leave me alone. And I would just put the shit up, and I get it. One thing I'm really good at from coming from Atlantic and doing all kinds of music, jazz, R&B, rock, I knew how to do it all, and I knew how to get it to a place quickly. That was my art, and that was my real lesson from Atlantic Studios, because everybody came to the door. You name the kind of music, and it's like, and here's a representation. So I was really good at that. So what they did was they left me alone, and I sat there and I did Jimmy's representation of what you gave me. And Mick would say this every time. I remember like it was yesterday. He'd go, that sounds really good, And I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, it's not special. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? That was a new word in my vocabulary. And so every record we did, I was trying to do something that would make it special. Whether it be, a flanger thing on this or, whatever. But that's what that record became.
You guys put some flanger in Foreigner too, right? You guys did some tape flange and stuff.
Yeah, Star Wrider.
Yeah. Really cool. I actually just sent that. I was listening to that track this morning, and I sent it to a buddy of mine he's in the middle of making a movie about the convergence of NASA and music that went into space.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Good one, man.
He's my next interview. He's my next interview tomorrow. So random.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But that's Kevin White. Cool stuff. I really enjoy all the fascinating convergences of like where music can take you to, the different places it shows up. So that's pretty amazing. Now, let me think. Where do we even go from there? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about. I know you didn't necessarily do the arranging on Foreigner, but do you feel like we've lost the art of the bridge in production and in songwriting?
I think we absolutely have, and there's there's really no need for a bridge. There was a need for a bridge back in the day because you had the orchestra there. You're paying all this money for musicians, and you had to get back to the beginning. It begged for it. Now, because of streaming and people just have instant gratification, they don't want to stick around for a damn bridge. You know,
I love
bridges. By the way, this is another one of my things that I learned from Ahmed. I remember this so clearly. The bridge usually happens around 2:30 in general. 2:15. So we'd be mixing and doing shit, and Ahmed would come in. The thing is, they would just come and go as they please. You're doing whatever, and they just put their 2 cents in and leave. And Ahmed would go. He goes, "What are you doing?" And we were agonizing over the bridge. Let's say, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, It's already 2 minutes and 10 minutes and 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the record. If they listen this far, they're going to listen. You don't have to do this.
They're going to make it through the bridge, is what he's saying.
Right. I was like, that's fucking brilliant. He has such a point. If they got this far, they're probably going to invest the rest of the time.
They're going to cross the bridge. They're going to cross the bridge.
Ooh.
But here we are. We've burned our bridges. I don't know, man. There's a lot of analogies.
You're really picking hard for that one.
Yeah, but I mean, I do enjoy it. And, like, especially listening to Foreigner, too, and hearing those bridges come by. And I'm like, wow, they really took it somewhere interesting. A lot of BVs. A lot of oohs and ahs showing up right then. But fascinating keyboard sounds too.
They did great. No, you nailed it on the head. They did great bridges. I totally agree with you. And it made it very hard. It made it very hard when I was mixing without an automated board. It made it hard to do the da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean?
How would you handle it back then? Would you print a separate bridge mix and then just edit it in afterwards?
Well, I would try not to, because the way that I mixed back then, I'd have the basic marks, but by the time I got to the end of the mix, they weren't there. I moved everything.
Right.
Because I'd be listening as I'm mixing and I'm feeling the music. It took me a long time with digital to when SSLs came out and everything was automated. If I might, I'll share it with you. When I was doing the Billy Cobham record, which we had done, we went down to Philadelphia. We did that record in London. We did it in San Francisco. We did it, and we did it at Electric Lady. We did it all over the place. But somehow we ended up going down to Sigma Sound Philly to mix the record. Nice. Don't ask me how that happened, but they had an automated SSL. And so we used to have an automated MCI, but it was different. That was a comparative automation. You only had 2 tracks that you had to, here's your A mix and here's your B mix. And if you're going to do anything, you have to get rid of one or the other, but you had to print the stripe onto the thing. SSL was different. So I went down to the SSL thing, and I remember I was working there. It might have been with J Mark, actually, old Sigma guy. Yeah. And he's helped me out. And I remember this so clearly. I'm never going to forget it. I did the mix of Billy, and like I just described how I'm used to mixing. I keep moving shit as I hear it and I feel it. When I get to the end, it's a performance. And if I got to start it again, I'll do it again until I get my performance.
Yeah.
When I did the SSL, everything was so right. I was able to, before I even mixed, everything was exactly right. Every little roll, it was all perfect. And I remember when I printed what was going to be the mix, I sat there and I looked at it and I felt nothing.
Because you didn't just perform it in that moment.
Well, I know it's not even that. No, I felt nothing. Everything was so. What I'm saying is, like, when you move the faders, nothing's perfect. Like you said before, that's where the happy accidents happens. Yeah. That should have been louder, but it wasn't. Now, when you automate, everything is right there. Everything is so
like
even and smooth.
It's gray. You end up with like a perfect beige or something.
That's what I'm saying. And you're just like, yeah, it's good, but it's not, has no emotion to it.
Yeah. I've definitely felt that.
I got used to that now, of course, in my life. That's how we do it now. So,
yeah. Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. business. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848.
But I mean, but I think you make a really important point, is because we have these automations, we have the tool, and we have all the control you could ever want, in a way. But without the risk of performance, without the commitment of a move of some sort, it's there's nothing human to connect to. I mean, it's why sometimes I'll listen to a rough mix that I did and I like it better than the mix that I just dialed in perfectly,
And you're not alone, by the way.
Yeah.
There's something about those edges. Most of us, really, people, what they call it, demoitis. It's like, no, certain things happen that evoked emotion that we all got used to. And when we took those things out and made them right, it just didn't, I'm not saying the rough mix is always it, but I totally identify with that. Totally.
Yeah. So how do you sort of like bring those back together? What's the secret?
So the way that I do that right now is when first of all, I don't bounce to disc. I refuse to do my mix bouncing to disc. I won't do it because I need, I guess other people listen to it after it's printed, but now after it's printed, it's already committed and you're more likely to just let it be. I listen real time as I'm printing and I can catch things because I go, that vocal's a little loud there. So I'll stop and I'll start again.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? As opposed to when it's all done, it's not the same listen.
Yeah.
So
you're hearing it while it goes down. Yeah. Don't bounce. Don't mix without listening. In other words.
Well, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
And they spend time, and because a lot of people ask me, did you listen to and I'm thinking, I actually didn't listen after I printed. This isn't the days of tape when you listen back for the tape to make sure there wasn't a bubble or something bad didn't happen with the tape. That's why I listened back then. I didn't, you know what I mean? But no, I don't listen once I've printed because I did all the work going in.
Yeah, right, exactly. Very cool. And I know some of the challenge there sometimes is I feel like I'm never even making it to the bridge because I keep finding something before then. But to your point, if you didn't make it to the bridge, then who cares? Nobody else can make it to the bridge either. So get it right. Get it right up to that point, Yeah,
no, that's yeah. We go in circles on that one for a while. It's just interesting, some of the things I was privy to be able to, the way that I was taught the business and the freedoms and the permission I was given in terms of the records. The other thing that doesn't happen as often now is like there's thousands of people that are involved in the record, and even at the record company, and half of them don't know. When I say they don't know shit, it's all subjective what people like, but they think they have information about from looking at the charts what happens. And I'm like, so back, and they'll say, this needs to do this in the mix and everything. I'm listening, I'm going, no, it doesn't. But you know what? Back in the day, Ahmed and them would just go, whatever you think, do it. And now, if you do anything else except for what they say, they paid you to do what they say, not do what you do. Even though they say, we want you to do what you do, but you're telling me all these other things to do. And what I do is I don't listen to people like you, Like one of the great things that we had, I tell people, I tell them all the time, and they don't even know what I'm talking about. I go, like when I was producing all that slave shit, I didn't give them anything until the album was done. So it wasn't like right now when you do the first record or whatever, like they're all listening. Oh, this is great. Make it do this. Make it do that. Can you put this on it? It's like, shut the fuck up. Let me make the record already. So like an album, they would just give me the money, give me the budget. I was in charge, and we would make it. And like a month later, they go, "You guys ready? Can we hear it?" And then when it's done, it's fucking done. Now go do your job and sell it. So, you know what I'm saying, man. I hate to be. I'm not trying to be weird, but that's how I feel.
I think it's great, and you make a good point too. I mean, there was always a fear back in the day making a record in with a console in the studio when that somebody, that the committee will show up, that the label will show up in the control room, and they're sitting there and it's like, no, just stay the fuck out. Let us do our thing. We don't need to mix by committee. Mixing by committee doesn't really work, does it?
One of the things with Timbaland, moving fast forward, one of the things about both of us that really made us do this, I had a whole career in my life before I met him.
Yeah.
And he's a young kid coming up with a new whatever.
And you guys worked together for a long time, right?
We worked together for a very long time. And I caught him, I kind of helped bring him to the world because he was just a kid and in the background with the, and the Jodeci thing. And we were just working every day. And I'm doing stuff with him, for him. But the great thing was he showed me a lot, but he was willing to let me do what I do. And what do I mean by that? For instance, the tape machine would be slamming. Because we were doing like 4 or 5 records a day up there in Rochester for like 2 years, and not only that, it's all digital. It's all like from a drum machine and stuff. So it's not like the drummers and stuff. So I would just be in a hurry, and he didn't know anything about it, and he didn't care. He didn't go, hey, that thing is leaning there. He wasn't that guy. He was like, whatever you think, Jimmy, and we would just do it, and we would do this stuff, and when we go to mix it, basically we would mix together, but he would basically give me the stuff, and I would do the vocals, and he'd just leave me alone. He's like, I don't know what to do with all. You do all that. I just know I need to have this and that on my track. And he would, and then I would EQ it, and he didn't go in and tell me how to. He would just say, you do that thing you do, and that's what we were doing for a long time. And so with him, we would get mixes done pretty quickly, and the thing was he had this thing that I didn't dare even know anything about. The record companies would hire him to do records, but he wouldn't turn them in for like a month or two.
Huh.
And they're paying him crazy bank. When I say crazy bank, from the world I came from, he was getting crazy bank. He was getting more for a single than I would get for a whole album back in the day to produce. But the point is, when we got them the record, they were so behind deadline, they couldn't critique. They were just happy to have it to put out. So we were doing that for a while. We had them on the run.
Clever.
No, we didn't do it. I'm saying it wasn't designed, but as I look back on it, I go, oh, that's why they let us get away with it. Because they couldn't believe, like, come on, man, we need the record, man. We're paying you big bucks. Anyway, that's
funny. That's funny.
The thing
wow.
of the past.
What a trip. I mean, I remember, this just popped into my mind, but I remember looking years ago, sort of like learning a little bit more about Timbaland in the studio and seeing him, recording, actually recording drums and creating samples to build music.
He does that.
This is probably, which I was like, that really struck me then. Now, I don't know, maybe it'd still be uncommon today because everybody just goes to Splice, I'm sure. But
absolutely,
I think there's something really cool about like creating your own world of sounds. And those records do have like really unique and original kind of grooves and
they
programming,
do. They truly, truly do.
And you must have such an understanding of pocket and groove at this point. I mean, you've done so many different styles of.
We didn't talk about my funk days.
Yeah.
Like Slave is a funk band. And then there's also Black Heat I was doing at the time of Earth, Wind and Fire. And I was a funk man. So I had pocket long before I even knew, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if I can toot my horn, I did a record with Duran Duran.
Awesome.
In the medium 2000s, about 2006. Simon Le Bon, when I was producing, I was co-producing with Danger Hands. And anyway, I was there alone with them all the time doing the vocals and, da-da-da-da. And one day the room was full of people and he was singing and I was directing him we were discussing about how I would direct him when he's singing. I'm not going to direct Simon, but I will. I can help you sing this vocal better. And he recognized that because he's from the old school and he welcomed it. So he was standing there and somebody said, he was on the microphone and they go, oh, Simon, you sound better than you've ever said. He goes, well, I have that man right over there to blame because he taught me how to sing in the pocket.
That's great,
I was like, once again, all these things, it's like, to me, it's almost like another day in the playground. I just been blessed to be around a lot of talent. And, and you kind of don't fuck up and you contribute what you can contribute. I'm not a genius by any.
Where would you get
stretch of
nervous on stuff like that, though? Where would you feel like you're like pushing your own nerve boundaries and like breaking a sweat a little bit when you're trying to get settled in on a record with a new artist? Hey, rock stars! Writing and recording your next great song just got a whole lot easier with Complete 15 from Native Instruments. This powerful toolkit gives you everything from deep sound design to instant musical ideas. Contact 8 introduces creative features like the new Chords tool, letting you generate and customize compelling chord progressions without needing to know music theory, making it perfect for songwriting. And the Phrases tool helps you find fresh melodic lines on the spot. With over 165 instruments and more than 150,000 sounds, Massive X, battery, and Guitar Rig 7 Pro, you've got everything you need to create in any genre. You can shape your ideas into real music fast. Whether you're sketching an idea or finishing a full production, Complete 15 keeps you in the creative flow from first note to final mix. Add your Complete Control keyboard or machine hardware to the mix for seamless integration and hands-on control. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off.
That point varies all the time. It depends on here, I got one for you. There's a group called you don't know what the fuck. I'm not even gonna get their name. What's it?
Here, I got Google's. Just
no,
Google it live.
The name from heaven is the not Requiem. They're from Brooklyn. They're an indie band. Anyway,
Okay.
I built Timbaland. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you know the name. I just
No,
can't.
not yet.
Coming. Okay. Anyway, I built Timbaland's studio in Virginia with John Stork. We spent a lot of money, and Tim was like, "Here, just do it." He had nothing to do with it. I did it. When I built it, I needed a band. When I was in London, some A&R guy, president of a label, played me this group, The Rapture. That's it. The name is The Rapture. So anyway, and I always remembered them, and I always remembered like they were fire. And I saw them down here in Miami when those festivals they do. And anyway, we got to know each other. And then when I built the studio, I was like, I need a band to test the studio out. I need a real band that plays. You know, it's the late 2000s, people weren't playing. So I invited them down and let me produce a record for them. And I said, and you can just have the place and it'll cost you nothing. In the middle of making that record, it was the kind of record where there's a bass player, the guitar player was very different and he had a very angelic voice. Bass player was there, he's having thoughts. Drummer was just there. And something was going on. And I remember I said to him, the guitar player one day, they were fighting. And they were doing and they were fighting me. And I walked outside and I just said, dude, I give up. I said those words. And you know what he said to me? He goes, Jimmy, you can't give up. And just the way he did it was just like, wow, he really penetrated me. And I was like, yeah, that's not what I do. And
Right.
whatever's going on, I can do this. We ended up doing the record. And then I find out like the day they were leaving after what we captured, they were in the middle of a breakup. And I'm the guy in the middle. And I picked the bass player to start trying to open up some of this stuff with, and they were having a fight. And so that's the answer to that question that you just had to me. Like,
Right.
I didn't know because I would have treated it totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much emotional investment in record making too. I mean, you know, there's the idea that like as a music producer, you also become a therapist, you know, at times.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the skill set,
I found an article that I wrote back in the early 80s. It was called Producer as the Sixth Member of the Band, or as that's what, and I wrote the article. And it was about the Gang of Four. I worked with a group called the Gang of Four.
I'm so glad you brought them up too.
and they did the same shit, man. They were fighting me tooth and nail. I was over there in London at Abbey Road Studios, and they were just giving me shit every day.
That's what they do musically too. That's part of the musical conversation.
That's their thing.
In that thing.
No. So their whole thing is like they're a bunch of elite, rich kids that want no part of the system. And I'm calling my manager back in America going, they're not. So by the way, this is an interesting story. So he goes, they're not listening to me. They're not making the record I need them to make. He goes, just tell them if they do something that's more standard, they can make it sell in America. Because they had records like, and the trains don't run on time. And I'm like, dudes, that's just not going to work. So I'm trying to get them to make that what you said, the pocket record, because they were a tight fucking band.
Yeah,
they were tight.
Yeah.
Anyway, we finished the record. It didn't happen. Well, it did happen. The Solid Gold record. It did happen actually a little bit, but not like if I had done. I was supposed to stay and do "Come On, Eileen." Oh, you may
right.
I was supposed to do Dexy's Midnight Runners, but something happened in America. I had to come back. There I stood. Hugo's name, the drummer. I saw him many years later, and I go, "Yeah, man." I said, da da da. He goes, "Yeah, well, apparently Mick Jones did. He listened, because I was telling him, like, you guys didn't listen." He says, "Yeah, there was those two. I listened, but they didn't." He goes, "But apparently Mick Jones listened." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The guy that was in the room every day. That was Mick Jones from The Clash."
No shit.
Yes, and then he went and made the Casbah record after it, and I'm going, well, somebody listened to me, but I.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, Combat Rock is one of my favorite albums too. That one really stands out. The Casbah, Rock the Casbah.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, the Gang of Four stuff sounds so good. It's just, I love the angularity of it, and the drums are really fantastic. God, who is it that it makes me think of now? Oh, it'll come to me. Well, very cool. Now, rewinding to recording with Slave too. Was that Son of Slide?
No, so that was Slide, the album Slide.
Oh, that's the album Slide. Yeah.
Right. And the Son of Slide was my, okay. So we had a record. These kids were like 16 in high school, and Henry Allen, because I had made a couple hits for him with Black Heat and all that stuff. They gave him Cotillion Records back, and he was like, "Jimmy, listen to this group and tell me what you think." And I heard the tape, and I was like, "Henry, this record's okay, but I think they need polish on top." But they were kids from 16. They had the basic thing, but they didn't have the record. So he brought them in, and then we did the record, and there was a DJ guy who actually was killed. His name was Jeff Dixon. He was a Jamaican guy. He had signed them. And when I say DJ, I don't mean like in the club DJ. I'm talking about on the radio back then. Real DJ. And anyway, he brought them in, and I sat there, and the thing was, my attitude was like, you guys just basically shut the fuck up and let me finish this record with you. I didn't mean to be that way, but he's saying dumb shit to me. Like, he's just saying dumb shit. And I'm like, I told you, I'm that guy that Jimmy doesn't like anything. I'm just like, dude, shut up. Anyway, when we did the record and we redid the vocals, we did all this. I mean, I did all this stuff. There was time left, and they had jammed on this Slide thing. And I just said, we have space on the record. Let's just call it Son of Slide and make an instrumental.
Yeah.
And that's,
and like, what about the bass? I mean, the bass really struck
that's Mark
me on
Adams.
that one too.
The bass is everything.
It's
in
unbelievable.
That group, Mark Adams, I used to watch him sit on the bench and just play with no sound. And he was just,
and is that a slap style? Is that thumb? Thumb and
yeah,
slap?
That's thumb and slapping. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But he was so in the pocket. It's so spot on too. Because it's easy to try and do stuff like that and just be ahead of the beat and rush it. But is just like,
he was the rock of Gibraltar, man. No, we did 7 albums.
Yeah. That's amazing, man.
Successfully. And then I ended up I took the drummer that they found. We had a little riff in between, and you ever heard of Mink DeVille?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Don't know that
we
one.
won't talk about Mink DeVille. But a group called Detective. There's all these groups in between I had done, which wasn't funk. I was doing rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then they did their, they got rid of me, and then they were doing their 4th album. And then the guy, Henry Allen, just begged me, "You got to do this, Jimmy." I'm like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I really don't. And they didn't listen to me on the second, whatever. And so I said, okay, I'll finish the record they started, but I got to have 3 of my own songs. And when we came back, their new drummer, he thought he was Stevie Wonder. And I remember talking to him going, "Dude, you're not fucking Stevie Wonder. Stop it. Like, be the drummer and be cool." And he ended up singing in a way that was so weird. I was like, and he was contributing. So we did a record, Just a Touch of Love, which actually exploded them into a new whatever. And that was, his name was Steve Arrington. And So Steve, we did a couple more hits, Watching You, and we did our thing. And then they broke up, and then Steve goes on his own, but then he invited me to make records with him. So I did all the Steve Arrington records too.
Oh, that's wild, man.
Yeah, life
That's
is
wild.
interesting, You just
Now, can I ask you about recording bass too on records like that, or just any of the records? I mean,
okay.
You've
can.
done so many different bass recordings and mixes,
Yes.
and you've seen
Right.
so many different ways that the bass can go down on a record. DI, amp, what are we forgetting about? What are we not doing that we should be aware of?
What are we not doing now or then?
Yeah. However you want to answer, but like, what have we forgotten about?
Okay, I will tell you an interesting observation that I have from Slave. I told you that kid was dynamic. He was so dynamic. When he played with nothing, it was there in his hand. It was in his hands. Okay,
Yeah.
that's number one. He also had, when he played in the studio, be him and the drummer, and we'd have these earthquake cabinets, they were called. Big ass fucking double, whatever, triple, and it would just shake the room.
That's great.
But he had to have it. And when they played together, the shit was, like you said, tight like that. It was just fucking simple, but tight. But you always put a DI in there, and I'd mic the cabinets. Whenever it came time to mix, do you know what I used?
Cabinets or the DI? You use the DI.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every time.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode.
And I had them there. It wasn't like I was doing it. I was always like, let's see. And at the end of the day, I could do more with the DI. But he needed that to make him feel like what he was playing.
That makes sense. So maybe that's a takeaway for us too, is like, be comfortable with recording bass using the DI, but remember that the player's got to feel it. It's got to feel great.
He's got to feel
for the playing. It's one of those
Absolutely.
instruments that really is unforgiving, I think, about if it doesn't feel great. I mean, a guitar, you can kind of, I don't know.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thought.
Well, I mean, like, for example, I redialed in my control room recently, and the low end is really amazing now. And I sat down in the sweet spot to play a bass overdub, and I realized I was like, holy shit, I can really...
You can feel the bass
really
now.
Create, because I can feel it. I could play soft and quiet and have a huge low end if I wanted to, or I could do the opposite. I could dig in and, turn it down or whatever. So I know I want to respect your time because I know you've got other things you got to get to too. But Snoop Dogg, Missy Elliott, Jay-Z. You want to share a story about any of those guys? What comes to mind?
What comes to mind is of all of them, Snoop Dogg was very respectful as a human being. I was very surprised by that because most hip hop people, you'd be sitting in the room doing whatever, and they bring all their friends, and as opposed to the old days, if there were people in the room, they were there because they were there to do something. They were either a member of a band or even in the house, they were there to, or it could be their roadies or whatever, but they did shit. They would go get food. They would do shit. The new hip hop people, they just bring people to come and sit in the studio and suck up your assistant. Can you get me some food?
Yeah.
Did you not come here in a car? Go get your own fucking food. You know what I mean? I need him or her.
Yeah.
So that's the difference of all that. And then they'll go get food and you're sitting there for 5 or 10 hours and nobody bothered to think, whoa, you might need some food. No, I'm very serious.
Yeah.
And,
you're
so
Jimmy, you're saying the food wasn't the sound coming out of the speakers at 120 decibels? That didn't fuel you?
That wasn't the 200 decibels. Oh.
Yeah. How did you survive the volume too? Cause I mean, like, Roger Mutno would tell me stories about, working with Run DMC in 6 months of like the SSL volume knob maxed out all the time, just wore him out, Was there a lot of working like that for you where it's just cranked?
I mean, So I basically had with the Timbaland era, I had PA speakers I was using right in front of the console. And with Devontae from Jodeci, he had the same thing with subwoofers, and the shit was loud. But, you know, at a certain point, you know what? I'll tell you what's really interesting. That bottom and that stuff that in the hip hop world, they're loud as loud, but I would play them some rock and roll guitars really fucking loud, as we would consider loud. Cause you know, when you hear, right? They couldn't handle that.
It was too
They
hard,
couldn't
too
handle
much
that
edge
frequency.
right? Yeah.
Huh?
Too much edge, too much mid-range.
Yeah,
edge
whatever.
and stuff like that.
I would, cause I was like, I don't have a problem. My ears are used to this. Theirs are not. And it just, they were like, but when they had that boom in your chest, I mean, I get it, but yeah, it's so interesting. Once again,
yeah,
everybody has a different
what we're
experience.
used to, right? Yeah, it's like the music is so much about familiarity. It's about what we've grown accustomed to and appreciate, because it reminds us of a feeling, right?
It reminds us of a feeling. I like the way that's said well. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, that's amazing, dude. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and doing an interview with me, man. This is a blast, dude. I mean, you mentioned so many records, and I know there's many more that I will have forgotten to ask you about, but Rockstars, I would encourage you to remember, go to Off Broadway in February if you can, you know, and go check out the METAlliance event, because you're going to hear story. I mean, you guys, between all of you must just the breadth of stories you must be able to tell is pretty outstanding.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
You're still hearing stories from the other guys where you're just like, no shit, you know?
Absolutely.
Are you still getting that experience?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right. Well, let me ask you this here. So, I love to ask this question of all my guests on the show. We're going to take the Wayback Studio machine, and you get to go back in time, rewind the clock, and you show up at the studio and you find young Jimmy, and you say, "Listen, dude, put down your homework for a sec." You say, here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. What advice would you go back and give yourself if you could? Obviously, it worked out what you did, but if you could go back and give yourself some advice, what do you think it would be?
Well, this is a little off page, but I think the only thing I would tell myself, everything else, I've thought of this many times. I would do exactly what I did then. That's how I feel about, you know, there was but the biggest thing that I would tell myself was like, leave those substances alone. That's all I would say, because, you know, I mean, my whole Timbaland era had none of that. That's part of why we were so productive, because it was just fucking clear-headed, straight ahead, you know. One of the things that would happen back in the day was I'd spend like all day being, you know, whatever. And I would just be doing all these stuff because they can do this and that. And then I'd be like about 2 a.m, I'd be so wore out. I didn't get it done. And I would be like, I'd come down and I'd be like, 5 minutes. And I'm going, why did you do that like 10 hours ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, the other part of that question, I guess, or your answer is one that I had written down, is just like, you know, thoughts. And that really is the advice probably is, but the thoughts about balancing studio life, even you said, I didn't have time to go to an art museum, you know, balancing studio life with healthy living. You know, maybe we want to live long. Maybe we want to make records for a long time in our life. You know, maybe we don't want it to just be a candle that burns bright and fast. So what thoughts?
I think I'd
what's
rather live.
You?
I'd rather live. I don't care if I'm making music or not at this. That's the other thing. And you kind of alluded to this. After a while, the whole thing of making music, and we didn't get to talk about Suno and the AI music revolution.
Yeah. Well, talk about it now if you want.
but to me, that's where we are.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I was already doing my songwriting. There was ways to do it, and blah 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 blah. And I've been the forerunner. And people that have been making records are like, I don't want any part of it. I'm like, guys, it's not okay. I was there when we talked about this. I was there when the drum machine came along. Right. Okay. And you were there too. And you were there when the synthesizers came along. And it wasn't the other thing. It didn't replace the playing. It made it convenient for other people to do more of it, and it allowed more people into the game. Well, you think with Suno, it's not going to allow more people into the game? Yes, it will. So your competition level has now changed, and they don't care. They really don't care. I mean, I can hear the sound stuff and I can hear where it's going to have whatever. But in the meantime, it's all about immediate gratification and it serves that purpose. And you can get immediate gratification and use it as a tool to get some ideas and go back in the studio and record it yourself again. I mean,
sort of fascinating to think that there might be a future where, as the listener, you sort of in the moment create what you want to hear and hear it even.
Right.
You know?
You're right. That's where that is going. And why wouldn't I want to do that if I can?
But at the same time, we need that reference of familiarity. We need to experience something new, become familiar with it, love it, and then want to hear it again later, I suppose.
I don't know about that. You keep having interesting little observations. I don't know if I want to hear it later.
Yeah.
I don't, it's so disposable and so immediate that an instant I can spend time listening to other stuff.
There's so much music to listen to today. It's pretty amazing.
It's impossible.
It's enjoyable, though. I will say that. I love it. Never get tired of it. Jimmy, I'm definitely going to be enjoying listening to this again. So thank you so much for joining us on the Recording Studio Rockstars, man. What an honor and a pleasure to get to meet you and hang out and hear these stories.
Oh, man. Thank you. It was good talking to you, man.
I appreciate you taking time out for us. Rockstars, if you enjoyed this, if you're listening, please come on over to YouTube and watch this. We're on video now, so you can come check it out and hit that like button and subscribe so you get more of these interviews from us. And then, Jimmy, if you were to ask a question to our listeners that they might reply to in the comment, what would you like to know about from them?
Audience, I always ask this question. I've always asked this question.
Yeah.
What does your audience look like? If you're an artist, even if you're a listener, you're an artist on some level. What does your audience look like? Like, who are you trying to talk to?
Connect with, yeah.
To serve, to serve, because that's basically based off of what you will make. And if I know that, I can help you make that thing to reach those people.
Very cool, man. I love it. That's a question that we can probably adopt for ourselves as we work in the studio with artists as well.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, Jimmy, thank you for hanging with us, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see you in person.
All righty, man. Thank you. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our fantastic sponsors who make this episode possible. iZotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Atom Audio, Spectra 1964, Grace Design, and Picker. And remember to take advantage of our special coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off any plugin purchase at iZotope.com or nativeinstruments.com. And don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. If you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors using the links in the show notes below. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They're going to help you make your best record ever. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because it's a great way to help support this show. And I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko, Daria Tupesis, and Max Young. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.